everyone. Welcome to Voice of Grace-Allstar. Today we will be interviewing Miss Farren. She lives in England and wrote and illustrated many fun books for children, including When I'm Not Looking. We'd love to know why Miss Farren wrote this book, and how did she come up with all the ideas. Now let's welcome Miss Farren.
Hi, Miss Farren. When and why did you create this book?
I actually created this book in university, which was in 2017, 2018. It was quite different to the one that I've got now, because I rewrote it and redrew all the pictures a second time. I wanted to do something about philosophy, because there's lots of really cool things in philosophy. Originally it looked like this, a little bit different. The art was quite different, it had different colours and stuff, so it's changed a lot since then.
Who has been your biggest influence in your creative process?
Probably people I've worked with before. So I went to university with a lot of other artists, and they all just have such amazingly different ways of working. So some people were really excited by sketchbooks and would have sketchbooks full of, lots of really wacky drawings, and some people would work on lots of different pieces of paper and would tear up paper and stick it down and do things with lots of mixed media, and some people would build things out of clay and take photos of them and come up with narratives for them and everything like that. And it was just so exciting to see everyone's different process and all the different places that they'd come from and the ideas they'd picked up and how people thought through stories. And it was just really fascinating. Picked up so many incredible ideas and experiences from all of these people. They've really shaped me into the artist I am today, I think. They've been an incredible influence on both this book and all the other books that I've done.
I like to draw more than I like to write. So I'm wondering, did you like writing or illustrating more when you created your books?
I think that's a really difficult question, but I think I'm more of an illustrator than a writer. But it's hard because both of those things come together so much, especially in this kind of book where there's not an awful lot of words and it's the characters saying the words. A little bit more like a comic book.
How much time do you spend writing books each day?
It's hard to put a number to it. I think when you're an illustrator, or when you do any kind of creative thing as a job, if you're a musician or a writer or a painter, it's not so much a career, it kind of becomes your whole life. So you might work 8 hours a day, you might get up and work like you would at school, or you might work at really odd hours. I stay up quite late anyway, so I tend to get up quite late and then work till 2 or 3 in the morning sometimes. And it doesn't feel like work, it just feels like fun and enjoyment. And, that's the kind of career everyone should strive to have, I think.
So I loved a lot of your creative ideas you put in the book, like your page activities in the end of most of the pages, and some of the in the end, which was the rat. That was a nice ending. And the last page of the book where you put a couple of the illustrations from pages before. And so I have a question. How did you come up with all of these creative ideas? And what or who inspired you to write the book?
So with the creative backgrounds and things that are going on in the book, it was largely inspired by real life places. Like I'd gone to babysit for a friend in Finland for a while, and I'd been to cousins' houses and things, and people that had very small children, and realised that a lot of the picture books I've seen, or a lot of the kids' media I've seen, they make houses look very pretty and very neat and very lovely. And actually, if any of you guys have younger siblings that are still sort of Legs' age, 5 or 6, you'll know it can be really, really messy. People leave their toys everywhere, they're leaving stuff out all the time. It's a constant struggle with parents trying to pick everything up and keep everything clean when you've got younger ones, especially if you have multiple kids. But it was really interesting going to people's houses and seeing how it actually is when it's not cleaned up especially. And I quite like it like that. It tells you a bit of a story. You get to see what they were playing with and what they were up to. You get to see cars put in Barbie dresses and things like that. And there's a creativity and a fascination, I think, about those kind of environments. And I wanted to put a little bit of that into Legs' book,
All right, that's really cool. And my second question is, what kind of research did you do before creating this book?
So at the time I was at university, as I said, so I was writing a thesis, and it was about interactive books. And there's lots of different interactive kind of books. I'd been reading Mo Willems' The Pigeon books. I don't know if you've seen any of those. Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus.
Yeah.
It's quite a funny one. But there was lots of different books like that stop the books from being just a storybook and make them more into a game or an experience that, you know, the parent can have with the child or a teacher can have with the class. And I thought that was really fascinating, kind of taking one form of media that's just telling a story and making it into something completely different, where you have to shout at the book or you have to join in and find something.
Why is the girl named Legs, and why did you decide to make Legs a philosophy?
That actually comes from when I first started sketching out ideas for the book back in 2017, 2018. And it was a lot weirder back then. I wanted it to be quite surreal when I first started. So Legs wasn't actually, she didn't look like she does now. She actually looked a bit like this. She was wearing a giant cardboard box on her head, and the only thing you could see was her legs. So I decided just to call her Legs after that.
Okay. I guess that makes sense, because she's imagining all these crazy things about her ducks, running her breath and robbing the bank and
Yeah.
stuff. Okay, so my next question is, people are used to having a pet dog, cat, parrot, or pony. Why did you design a pet goose instead?
So she's supposed to be a farm duck, but she does look a little bit like a goose because of the white colour. But again, at the beginning of the project, when it was in its very early stages, I decided to call the book Paradox as a joke on paradox. And it was originally about where Legs would put a box over the top of her duck and wonder what was happening inside. Maybe it was multiplying, maybe lots of different things were going on, and every time she lifted it up there would be more ducks under there and things like that. So it was all on the play on words on paradox. And the story ended up changing a little bit, and we ended up changing the name because it made more sense. But I still like the idea of it being a duck. By this point in the project, I really loved the duck. She was a good character. So.
Why did you make it a suspenseful ending? And what happened to the mouse?
So the suspenseful ending is because I really like it. I think it's really fun when the audience knows something that the character doesn't. So if you've ever been to a pantomime, I don't know if you guys have, do you know what that is in America? Have been a pantomime? Oh, it's kind of a play that we have over here that we put on around Christmas. And there's a joke in all of them where there'll be something going on behind the main characters. You might have the evil character, you know, wandering in, and the audience has to shout, "He's behind you!" But the character's completely oblivious, that they don't hear you at all. They're like, "Oh, where are they? Oh, I can't see them." And it's always really funny. And I kind of wanted to have that a little bit in the book, where you can see what's going on. You can see that the cat is up to something, but Legs is completely oblivious. She has no idea. And at the end, you get that subverted expectation, which is something that they use in comedy, where you think one thing is going to happen, and then something else completely happens. So you think that she's going to see the cat at last and figure out what's going on, and that's kind of what you want to happen. But then actually she doesn't at all. She thinks something completely different. And what happens to the rat? The rat's completely fine. She, as you can see from the end pages at the end, her interests completely change. Her walls are now covered in, you know, pictures of rats that she's taken and writing and stuff that she's been doing for it. But I feel like Legs is one of those characters that has really, really big passions for a while, where she decides, this thing, I'm really obsessed with this, I've got this question I want to answer. And then dinner time comes around and she's completely forgotten. There's something else, you know, she's seen a dog out the window that looks very suspicious. So now her obsession's on the dog instead.
Okay, so my second question is, how long did it take you to make this book?
It's quite hard to say, especially with this book, because it had to be written and rewritten twice. So in the earlier version, so the version that I did at university, that took 12 weeks to make, which feels like a very long time. But that was from start to finish, doing all of the ideas, doing all the writing, doing all the drawing, and it looks very different from how it looks in the finished one, not nearly as busy. So then doing the much busier illustrations when I read it, that took a lot longer. So those have taken about 3 months each-ish, sometimes a little bit more, but usually with a picture book, so something that's 36 pages and just tells a fun story. Even if it's quite cram-packed and busy, it will usually only take, a month or 12 weeks or a little bit longer than that.
We love the color a lot, and why did you choose those kind of geese to draw?
So I had a lot of different pictures of ducks on the cover and on the back cover, and not all of them are actually in the book, which I'm sure you've probably noticed. Like we've got the little robot duck, and we've got scientist duck up here, and space duck, dinosaur duck. So the reason I drew all of these very strange ducks on there was to give you a little bit of an idea of all the aspects where you can draw in it yourself and write your own ideas. It's just to give you a little bit of an idea of what you could do. It's not necessarily there as a, add in one of these characters that's already there, but just to show you all the possibilities of what you could make the story.
So how did you arrange the pages?
I actually had an interesting way of doing this. It's where you use a computer to build a 3D model of something. So I built all of the rooms as 3D models, put all the beds and, the furniture and stuff in. They were quite basic, didn't have any detail yet. It was just sort of black and white, where all of the furniture and stuff would go. And then I would print those out, I would draw over them so that I could get the arrangement and stuff, and then I would start putting in all the details. And I've made lists and lists of stuff that I wanted to put on the pages. So things like science experiments, pieces of drawings, and old toys that I thought would probably appeal to her as a character, and bits of crafts and stuff, things I remembered from school. I think on one of the pages there's a little kind of cut out medal that she'd made with Cheerios stuck on it to make it look like the Olympic rings. It's something I remembered doing many, many years ago when I was in school, and I just thought that kind of stuff makes it feel a little bit more real, makes it feel a little bit more, like you're actually in a place. So I drew out all of these little details separately, and I put them on Photoshop and scooted them around, put them in different places to see where they would fit, and then I would print that out, and then I would draw over things and move stuff around a little bit more, and then I would draw the final line work with all of the bits and the places that I wanted them to be, and with characters in and things like that, and then go through the process of colouring and stuff like that. But the computer-aided design program thing is what helped me kind of arrange stuff and figure out where everything had to go. Brilliant what we could do with technology. It would take so long without it.
So sometimes when I'm writing, I get like this writer's block, which means as I get to a point of the story, I don't know how to go on. So have you met any difficulties while creating this book?
Absolutely, especially at the beginning when I was trying to come up with the ideas. I had a lot of very weird ideas about, as I said, legs being a character inside a box and, all sorts of strange things going on. And it kind of hit a brick wall because I didn't know what the story should actually be other than, the concept of the duck doing strange things. And it can be really difficult sometimes when you've got a really good idea, but you just don't know how to put it into words and how to come up with a start and an end and, how to fix it all together and make it perfect. And sometimes I find it's good to step away from a sketchbook for 10 minutes, go on a little bit of a walk, or, go and read some other books and see what other people have done, or, just go and bake some bread or something, take a minute off, let your brain reset, and then go back to it and start, rethinking stuff. And keeping sketchbooks is good as well. I showed you a minute ago my little pocket sketchbook. I have hundreds of different sketchbooks in different sizes. The little pocket one just comes with me in my pocket all the time. But then when you're out and you're thinking about stuff, you can just draw really kind of sketchy, scribbly ideas. You can write stuff down and you can make notes, and it just kind of helps you work through things. And then eventually you wake up at 3 a.m. and think, done it, I've come up with the solution. And then you'll go through 10 more times of re-editing it and coming up with something new. But you've just got to give it time sometimes. It's really difficult when you get in that writer's block, but you'll always come through it because you're a creative person.
Have you written any other books like this one in the past?
It's tricky because I've had 4 books published and I've written lots more than that. But none of them are really very similar because they've all got very different styles and very different ways of working. One of the last books I published was this one, with The Good Dog, and you can see the style is very different. But I think all of the books I work on have some similar stuff to them. They've all got kind of philosophical ideas and silly bits, and a lot of fart jokes. I do like a good fart joke, especially with big topics. Like I said with this one, The Good Dog, it's about ethics.
When you're not writing a book, what do you tend to like to do?
So at the moment, not very much, because we've been in quarantine. I'm living up in Glasgow, so we've been stuck inside for a very long period of time. We haven't quite opened the borders yet, but I do find lots of things to do. Even when I'm not working on books, I do like to do a lot of drawing. I've got lots and lots of sketchbooks, and I'll lay in bed coming up with characters. I've gone walks drawing characters. I'll sit and draw my cat many, 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 many times over, because he's the only interesting thing in the house. When quarantine ends, or before it started, I did like to go out traveling quite a bit. Quite like to see lots of different places and meet lots of different people. I think that's a really good source of ideas when you do go back to work.
My question is, do you have a special writing snack or place that keeps you going on those days when it feels like things aren't flowing as you like?
Snack or a place? Probably both. So with a snack, if I'm having a day where I'm struggling with motivation to do the book, if I'm a bit bored of what I'm writing and I think, I don't really want to do this very much today, I'm a bit bored, I'll go and bake some bread. Because when you make bread, you have to beat it a lot, beat up the dough, and then leave it to rise. And then beat up the dough and then leave it to rise. And you'll have like an hour between each time it rises. So it breaks up the day a little bit. So I'll do some writing and then I'll think, I've got to go and punch my bread for a little bit. Takes out the stress of the writing.
What are some of your favorite books from your childhood, and have any influenced you to become an author or to write any books?
Absolutely. So my favorite book when I was a child was a book called Pass the Jam Jim by Margaret Chamberlain. And I remember specifically when I was little, I have two little brothers that are a bit younger than me. And my dad used to take us up to bed and read us this story, probably 1,000,000 times over. And there was a few others in the series, I think, as well, like You Can Swim, Jim, and stuff like that. But we really, really loved it because on the end pages, which are the pages like this, where it's right at the beginning, they had lots and lots of busy things. It was like a messy floor with lots of toys and scarves and ropes and pieces of clothing and stuff like that were throughout the book that you can see. And I thought it was brilliant because my dad used to play I Spy with us. He'd go, who can find the picture of the clown first? And we'd all be going, I'm going to find it first. I'm going to be the best, sort of thing. And yeah, it was my first experience of story time being playtime and, being interactive and being a time that I could spend with my family. And I think that really inspired me as I got older to want to do that kind of thing, to make books that when you're a grown-up you still remember and you still think about fondly and you still think, this was a really nice part of my childhood and I still want to read this again, it's lots of fun. So that's kind of what inspired me to go and become an illustrator, but also it inspired a lot of when I'm not looking, with all of the details in the background and things like that. I wanted to add those onto as many pages as possible so that other people could have this kind of experience where they could sit down with their friends or with their mum and dad or with their siblings or with their classmates and sort of have a nice time just playing and, having little competitions. And even once you've done the book once and you've found the things it asks you to find, like you've counted how many books there are on the page and things like that, there's so much more stuff to find and you can just keep going forever and ever and ever, really. And I think that book, Pass the Jam Jim, inspired with that. I think it was brilliant.
Do you have any tips for young authors that want to grow up and then just be an author for a living?
Absolutely. The best piece of advice I got was when I was in secondary school, because I really wanted to be an artist all through growing up. When I was little, I used to draw comic books and I used to draw cartoons and I wanted to be a cartoonist and I wanted to be a writer and I wanted to be a painter, and I was really excited all growing up until I got to secondary school. Because when you go to secondary school, I'm not sure what you call it in America, middle school or high school.
Middle
But
school.
people might start to tell you with creative subjects, you get a lot of teachers and a lot of friends and people that parents and stuff start to go, ooh, creative subjects, artists, there's not a lot of jobs in that. It's quite hard to make a living from that. And it really put me down when I was younger. I thought, oh, I'm not sure I can make a living from doing art. I might need to pick something else. I might need to go and be a scientist or something, so that I can afford to live when I'm older. And I'd almost kind of given up. But I was in a class with a girl called Isabel, and she really, really wanted to be a comic book writer. And she used to draw manga and draw it really well. And I remember sitting next to her one day and saying, oh, do you have a backup plan? It's quite, there's not a lot of jobs in that. And she turned to me and she said, well, someone does it. And it really opened my eyes up to realise that a lot of the reasons why there's not a lot of people in the art industry that you hear of, because a lot of people give up when they're quite young because they've been told that they can't do it. But actually, if you keep going, even if you're just trundling along, you'll manage it, you'll go into the arts. And there's actually loads of jobs out there. I've realised as I've gotten older, being an artist, there's so many different jobs to do. And with writing as well, you can write for books, you can write poems, you can write for adverts, you can write for film, you can write loads of different things, and you can write everything at once, There's so many jobs out there, and it's such a huge part of society. And the other piece of advice, I suppose, is that it can be very demotivating sometimes when you're writing something or drawing something and you look at other people's and you think, oh, they're a lot better than me. And that's going to happen all the time as you get older. Even as you grow as an artist or a writer and you become really good, there'll always be someone better, but you'll keep improving at your own rate as well. And it's not always the talent and the skill that makes a book good. I've always found that it's the idea. You can have a brilliant idea for a story, and even if your writing's not quite great yet or your drawing's a little bit rough, people are going to love it because you put your passion and your interests and you've made something that's quirky and different. People are going to love it anyway. At the end of the day, it's all in your creativity and your ideas and your big thoughts, so hold on to those and just keep going, keep writing, keep drawing, just do what makes you happy and keep doing it, and eventually you will make a career out of it, no matter what anyone says.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us, Miss Farren. We learned a lot about you and your book. We hope to see you soon. Bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.